Welcome back to Gators Gameday Live. I'm Seth Varnadore, joined once again by Bud Davis. Off of a disappointing, frustrating. What word would you use to describe the loss to Tennessee?
Oh man, yeah, disappointing, frustrating. I think those two nail it.
Mind-boggling at times.
Just unbelievable. Like finding ways to lose a game again in unique ways, and potentially one of the last to ever lose a game because of a 12-man penalty like that.
The runoff, yeah.
With a runoff, I mean he's going to be in the record books. It's going to be your little bar trivia.
Once again, a year too early for Billy Napier. Hired probably a year too early. Puts 12 on the field goal team a year too early.
Oh man, still can't get over it. But rewatched some things, feel a little bit better about it. I think the offense maybe a little bit better than I thought day of, especially in the first half. I mean, obviously the red zone frustrations are what they are.
Yeah.
But there's some cool stuff in there. Sorry to see Graham go out.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. He was playing really well too. Probable last pass as a Gator goes for a touchdown. So it's always a good way to cap it. But yeah, unfortunate, especially non-contact. Always.
Did you see? He kind of said it was actually on the scramble he had before that.
Oh, was it? Okay, no, I didn't see that.
So he threw the touchdown with the ACL.
With the torn ACL. There you go. Tough dude. And it'd been a really, really good Gator. So unfortunate ending for him, but I think he's probably he's got a chance to play a little bit more football in his future. So
yeah, and I could see him on on the sidelines. I think he'd have a future there.
Yeah, he seems to be really smart dude, pretty media savvy, understands that side of it too. So he could be that guy. Definitely. So all right, let's get into the game a little bit. There was a few things that were really I guess what was the most surprising was the defensive effort kind of the biggest standout to you?
Yeah, defensive run stopping. I think that was the concern going into the game, and we looked really good doing it. We thought UCF was going to be a tough test for our run defense. We thought Tennessee was going to be an even tougher test. And both times, I think the run defense stepped up. Ultimately, that you can only stop so much, but they played really well, and I was impressed by that. Yeah.
And then final question before we get into we got a little film here we can watch for some plays, and you wrote down a couple of plays you liked the best, so we'll go through those as well. But we talked about it a little bit right after the game. You've had some time to think about it. Going for two, definitely the wrong decision to not go.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. You got to me now. I'm saying you have to go for two there. I don't know how you talk yourself out of it. I really struggle with it, but I would have liked to have seen us go for two there.
And I would imagine with how the overtime rules are set up now that you've got a couple first of all, you got to practice a bunch of 2-point plays because you're probably not going to run the same one over and over. And it becomes an alternating 2-point play, by the third overtime. So you'd think you'd have 3 or 4 that you really like. And yeah, you'd rather get one of those, if you got 1 or 2, if you really like 2 of them, you show one, then run the second one because you can't take back-to-back timeouts.
Yeah.
And take your chances there. But yeah, I thought just with how the offense performed in the second half, especially after Mertz went out, like I didn't think it was going to be, a well-oiled machine at overtime. Like you score at the end, but it's a 3rd and 18, and you basically end up getting in the same exact situation in the overtime. But instead of needing a touchdown, so you're really aggressive, you only need the field goal, so you're not as aggressive, and it bites you.
Why do you think Napier has really struggled with trick plays in his career, or at UF particularly. We've seen this come up, a few times now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some where it's like the timing of them is like I wouldn't classify the one in overtime as a total trick play. But
more so the 2-point conversion, not having two in the bag.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of times that can be a real feel thing, and I don't think he's a feel. Yeah, he's not a feel play call. He's very. So this is one thing that I think is somewhat forgotten on him is that he played at Furman. They ran the option. He grew up playing for his dad. He ran the option. So he is formed. His football mind is kind of formed, and I think that does have something to do with kind of how you pick things up. He's an option. He learned the game option style football. Option style football is very systematic. Like you can be creative in terms of like design and things like that, but like play calling and option football is really systematic. Some guys have it down to like you start with this play, and then after that, it becomes a bunch of if-then statements. Basically, your play calling goes, well, if they stop it, they do this to try to stop it, then we do this. If they do that to try to stop it, we do that. So it's very just regimented, systematic. And like a guy like Napier, you kind of see how he talks, how he does things. Very systematic. So I think like to be really good at those tricks, it is a bit of a feel thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's his strength as Rob says here, no feel. So
I think you and I would agree that actual play calling is probably one of his biggest deficits as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think sequencing and timing. I think the design of stuff is fine. Like the design, some of the stuff is designed really well. It's just
some of the stuff is awesome.
It's just the timing of when you call it.
We've got a cool that we've picked out a few really like they're pretty neat ones. Like,
so yeah, I think that's part. I think it's just he's a very systematic guy, and you can see that in like all parts of the program. Like if he's got to go off the cuff, like think about like NIL, he wasn't quite sure what his plan was. So he had to go off the cuff. He's very kind of, slow to, make decisions and kind of, take risks. So I just think that's how he's just a systematic thinker, and it's tougher there.
Yeah. And it's not like option. I mean, the spread, like, which is a great success at Florida, it was the spread option. And they just called it the spread because they didn't want to scare people by telling them you're going to run the option.
Yeah.
But same if then you can be creative, you can be a great play caller with it. But Napier, it seems like some of these one-off plays, special teams, trick plays, we don't execute those as well. And that's consistently been something that hammers us.
Yeah.
Where, our efficiency numbers are usually pretty great, and our positive explosive plays are usually really good too. Where we get hammered we have continued to just be bad situationally, third downs, and have back-breaking turnover type plays like fumbles at the one.
That's always tough, fumbling at the 1 yard line. So let's look at, you kind of charted out and padded out a couple of plays that you liked. We'll throw the diagrams up real quick and kind of talk through them, and then we'll show we have got video of most of these as well. So this is one they liked last year against Tennessee in the top left is 4-man spacing. So it's that same spacing concept they like to do a lot. They'll do it. They'll just send they'll include the back in it and send a third guy vertical. So instead of having just the two kind of curls and the flat, they'll send the back to the flat and have last year I think they even sent the back on a wheel one time. So they like to get the spacing a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, and we kind of talked at the beginning of the year, we were seeing a lot of spacing, especially third and medium. This is a concept we like a lot. We've seen it a lot, especially with this formation into the boundary. So that's, we've got a bunch of players on the side of the field, the hash side of the field that we're on. So it's really crowded over there. We run spacing. We've been running a lot, but we did it first offensive play of the game for the Gators. We ran it.
Yeah.
And it was nice I liked seeing it on first down. That was a nice wrinkle because we usually don't do that. I like seeing Hansen get involved, and I liked kind of the 4-man wrinkle on it. So I thought this was a good one to see how they were going to play it.
Yeah, and then you got there's a couple different boot looks. So you have starting a bunch, motion
Well,
over, and
let's
go
go to
post wheel.
the four verts, because I think that kind of almost, in my mind, like we're showing a look 2nd and 10,
Yeah,
kind of
top
in the red
right.
zone.
And
Yeah,
that's the time when Napier likes to run and get into third manageable, right?
Yeah, so defense is probably thinking spacing there, and we've got the jet motion that people always bemoan, you don't do anything with it. But we run essentially a four verts concept out of this formation in the boundary and hit the tight end. But you had the running back seam right behind him and went for a touchdown. So I thought that was cool to kind of see those two. And I like having these two plays next to each other to show, the concepts aren't too dissimilar. I mean, obviously one's an explosive one and one is more of an efficiency one.
Yeah.
But I like how they kind of complement each other.
Yeah, and off that jet motion that, this is after the 4th and inches jet sweep look. So you had a pretty good idea that they're probably going to run with that jet motion. So similar spot in the field, I think, too. So, they're going to run with it. That should give you, if the corner steps up, that should give you a chance to get over the top, which they try to come back to something similar later. And it doesn't quite work out. And then you got a couple boots here. One motioning across, running the wheel. This is something they've run a few times in the past. I wonder if we see it against Kentucky this week, because they ran against Kentucky in Richardson's season 22. The post and then the wheel. Safety gets over the top, and we'll watch a video of all these as well. And then just the normal boot, but bringing that
one's a double play action. So fakes the jet, fakes the handoff. And the defense, so I think for these, what kind of stood out for me, a lot of these is we had a lot of good passing success out of 12.
Yeah.
And kind of some heavy formations, with bunches. So clearly we're getting a look we liked against Tennessee there. And we were doing a lot of, I think JP Gator calls it split zone bluff, but with that tight end slide motion where he's coming behind the line of scrimmage. So not the jet motion, but it's not really motion. It's at the snap.
Yeah.
His route is behind the line of scrimmage and then to the flat. And where we were running some split zone, they were looking run block, and all these play actions were just crushing here. That guy was leaking open almost every time. We were finding a lot of space.
Yeah, the tight end will come underneath the line of scrimmage and usually kick out. If it's split zone, he's going to kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. So on these, he does a great job of coming flat down the line of scrimmage, and then at the last second, avoiding the end and then getting in the flat. And you'll get some run play from linebackers and ends, and that guy often slips out. And then the last one here in the bottom corner was the first play of overtime.
Yeah.
You go jet motion. It looks like, to me, it was supposed to make it look like quarterback sweep, because the receiver goes down, you pin pull. I think you start in a bunch formation, and we'll watch the video of this and kind of really talk through it. But starting a bunch formation, trying to get the corner, I think, is the force player. So when he sees this, he's got to step up and play run. The idea was to get him to step up and play run and sneak the receiver behind him. We've got a really good example of the Baltimore Ravens running it.
It's a cool play.
And it's something they hadn't really shown. Now, I kind of wish you would have shown the quarterback sweep first, but I think it's something they've shown in a game previously out of this look. So it's almost like we didn't show it in this game, but we showed it at other times this season. So hoping that Tennessee would look at the film. Okay, when they're in this with Lagway, it's going to be quarterback sweeps in play. I think he was just a little early. So it was the kind of that fine detail of, hey, really sell the run first.
Yeah. One more thing. Can you go back? One more thing before we get off it. Just because people do like to say, oh, we run this motion, it doesn't do anything. I mean, these are really good examples of what it actually does and how, like, great examples of when we use it really effectively. So, like, middle left turns into a wheel route that we hit for a big gain. Middle right, it's part of a play action that sets up the flood concept really nicely. And then I like the bottom left. We've got him in the jet motion. The timing we've been doing all day is, you snap it, once he gets to the QB, and we snap it quick there. Snap it really quick, and he peels up, and he becomes kind of the middle layer of this flood concept and gets hit. And it's a great way to use Trey Wilson. He's got his speed. You're catching him a little bit off the timing, and you're getting him for a nice gain there. So I thought those were all pretty cool play designs.
Yeah, and we can get to the video of these and a few more things now. So let's look at that. Okay, so first play of the game for Florida offensively, they go empty and they run spacing. So they're actually going to run 4-man spacing. So we talked about it. The next play is also going to be 4-man spacing, but here's two different ways they get to it.
Oh, yeah.
So just want to show both. So here's the vertical down here. He's going to get over the ball. He'll be here. He's in the flat, and then on your backside, you got your slant. So a lot of times they like to couple. So here's like a zone beater. Here's a man beater. So up top, you get man coverage. Work the slant. Good timing, good throw. And thank you to Lib Gator for putting up these condensed games when it's hard to
It's awesome.
It's when you're recording machinery is not functional due to moving around a lot. It's nice to have
hurricanes.
Yeah. So here's the one Bud drew up. Again, 4-man spacing. I believe it's going to be here. And now you're going to have the tight end run the wheel. In the back, it's in the flat on the swing. You really can, I mean, some guys will read this guy's drop. And if he opens to the slant, you can work back here. If he opens there, you can work the slant. Could just be man zone. He could be reading the drop. But he opens up. And so Hansen comes open over the ball. Drop it to him. Pick up another first down. And then it just seemed like they were attacking curl flat a ton. So this is basically Hank, which is old school curl flat play, just a little bit different. So traditional Hank, is like curl flat, then a guy over the ball. That's a West Coast offense staple.
Most run concept in the NFL. It's a curl flat.
Yeah, Hank. And then Hank is what a lot of people call it, right? So Florida's going to get there a little bit different, but same idea. So here's a flat player, a curl player, and then the guy over the ball, right? So those are the landmarks you want to get to when you're running curl flat. So how does Florida get there? They're going to run a hitch, and he's going to widen in this curl window. Same thing down here, hitch, widen into that curl window, and then over the ball. So curl flat, but instead of bringing the outside guy into this curl window, they're just going to have the slot run into the curl window. So this is a different way to get there. I thought was interesting, and it really seemed like they thought that the flats in the hook curl area was like going to be open against Tennessee because spacing hits that. The slant on the backside gets in the similar area. This gets in that similar area. So that definitely seemed to be part of the game plan early. So defensively, like some of this is, I think a lot of this is just like some dudes making plays, not in terms of just like crazy plays, but like watch these guys. So this is not too dissimilar to what they did last year with Princely into the boundary. When you got motion in, he'd come into the box. And you get a little shift up front. But watch how these guys play the run. So Tennessee this is one of their favorite run plays is they're gonna get this guy on the run and use him as a puller. But they also love to run dart and pull the backside tackle. But watch how the Florida players play this run. Look at this. I think that's Sharif Benson. Watch him come up onto the H back here and stuff him right there.
Yeah.
Like that's great stuff. Your linebackers right here stuffs the tackle, and you're able to get off and kind of slow it down and make the play there. So great effort from two young guys. And then I thought this was a really good job passing it off. They want you to run with this. So he started here. They want you to motion him out. They want you to run out of the box with it and then run a slant behind it. Run basically double slant and then run him to the flat. Hoping you vacate the box and we can hit this slant on the run. Florida does a good job passing it off here to where he ends up taking right here. He's gonna run with that, you end up kind of bracketing this first slant right here and then playing man coverage outside. So you can see Nico wants to throw this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
You got inside and you got over the top there. That forces him to pull it down. And then Florida did a really good job with this. This was definitely a big part of the game plan. I don't know if this is, man but he's definitely watching the back to see if he stays in for protection. When the back stays in the protection, he adds on, right?
Green lights.
Yeah. So the back stays in. Now he can add on. That causes him to pull down. You get the holding penalty. And that helps you a ton. So
it definitely benefited us playing 2 veer and shoots teams in a row.
Yes, that's helpful. Like just the pace of it, and then the concepts they all run a lot of pretty similar stuff. So
yeah,
that's helpful. I've just put this on here because this is just a great cut by Jaden Ball. Just wanted to put it on. Great job of pressing line of scrimmage and then getting all the way back. That was just really, really good stuff.
Hansen opening a hole.
Yeah, so really cool, really good stuff there. Another one from the defense here. So here's a great job. I think this is Jaden Robinson, right? So again, like the box is he's outside of the box. He's kind of outside, but I mean you got 5 dudes in the box. You could maybe count him there because they're close, but they're in a tight front. But just watch the back stays in. He's going to trigger here. The back was not ready for that, and he makes a play there. So bring in 4, but I don't even know if the back goes out in the route. He probably goes out too, so you're dropping 8. But once the back stays in protection, he triggers, blows up the back, makes the sack. So they had a pretty good play in it, I think. So here's the wheel here. So you're going to go post, motion.
Show here. Formation in the boundary. So, right?
Yep, show formation.
Of the game.
Formation in the boundary. You got a bunch, which depending on their bunch check, maybe they know, okay, if we get them in bunch, like here's the corner. So, keep that in mind for later. Corner's rolled up here. He's going to run with a motion. So think about this for later, right? So Florida gets in the bunch. The first play of overtime, they're going to get in a bunch like this. They're going to motion over. That's the corner. He's going to kind of settle here. And that's where they want to try to run by the guy. So they're kind of getting the look for it here to see if they got it. So you kind of know teams don't have a ton of bunch checks typically. They have a few. So maybe they probably felt pretty good with, okay, if we get them in bunch, they're going to roll the coverage this way. We can get the post or the wheel. Safety tries to get over the top of the wheel. And then you've got the tight end coming into the flat there.
Yeah, and they're thinking run. I mean, it looks like a run play.
2nd and 6, backed up inside the 20, young quarterback. Yeah, definitely looks like run. He pulls it out there, and then this was not like I wouldn't say this was a wide open throw. Like, I don't know if like a guy like Mertz throws this.
Yeah, Mertz doesn't throw that. Mertz goes to Boardingham.
But he rips it back shoulder. DK makes a great catch. And then off the jet sweep look. So again, like as you're watching these, you're thinking, okay, Florida calls a jet sweep later.
It's third and 1.
So that 4th and inches, they call the jet sweep. Here, jet sweep gets the flow here. And now this downhill gets these guys here. Here's split flow. He's trying to avoid him. Now he's into the flat. Then you can see he kind of had either or, right? Because the motion gets this movement, and then the downhill gets them to step up, and that's where you get one in the flat, the crosser open as well. Really had either or, but take the easy one, just pick up the first down. Really good job there. Then you come back to the 4th and 1. And so this is where Napier says this is a really great play. And he's not wrong, but again, this is like when we talk about situational play calling, this is where it's like, look where the ball is compared to the yellow line. It's, so like, is it like If this was 3rd and 1, okay, maybe. And this is what he's talking about. Like, they get what they want. They get the block here. They get the block there. Now, maybe you can nitpick and say, well, if the running back blocks through his outside shoulder, this guy's not going to be able to make this play. It's a little nitpicky, but this guy does fight through. And this is one where you watch it, and initially watching it, you say, maybe I feel like you could pull this. But
that's what we thought.
But he's slow playing it. And we said this kind of even at halftime. He's slow playing it. So that would be, I guess, why you'd give it. Because you can kind of tell, hey, if this guy doesn't get out there and take it away, we want to give it. We're going to put it in Trey Wilson's hands, right?
Yeah.
I think you could have made his case for keeping it. But remember, he's not blocking. All right, he's not going to kick out. He's not kicking out here. He's wrapping for here. So this guy is going to be unblocked. So
yeah.
Now, I think he might have flown out with that and you creased it, but following the rules, I think it's all right.
Option football.
Yeah. So, and then good tackle on the perimeter.
It's a great tackle.
Yeah. So you got to give them some credit, but you just can say, hey, probably not the best call for fourth and an inch when you're going to get, as we get here. Yeah. The defense is going to be filling aggressively. So, yes. And, yeah, they did it on 3rd and 1 earlier. Get under center and sneak it. Now, I guess the question is, how many snaps is Lagway taking under center? I don't know. But that's where you run into problems when it's, not situational and it's all predicated. So I put this one on because this is Aaron Gates right here. So watch this. Again, not a super heavy. 6-man box against. Watch him take on the tackle. That's really good stuff, man. There's some things to get. Man, these are young dudes playing really well in some spots. It's just a shame they couldn't get out of their own way at times. Yeah. Here's the one you another one you drew up off the kind of short motion.
Snap it quicker. And I love
try to get that. These. Take him out flat. Kind of a little, maybe force this one a little bit. But this is where you'd like to see something, either run it to the field. Now, this is one they love to run these. They only run the play action stuff right. They've said it.
Yeah.
They've said it, in clinics and stuff. They don't run boot to the quarterback's weak hand. So when they had Levi Lewis is left-handed, everything was to the left. At Florida, they've had all right-handed quarterbacks. Everything's to the right. So, personally, I'm not a big fan of that. But, if that you got reasons for doing it.
It's a first down,
But I guess I'm saying I'd rather the same concept to the field.
I get it.
Give him more room to run away from that safety if he does come down. But
Tennessee is thinking run the whole way here. Everything you've ever put on film says this is going to be a run.
Again, inside the 20, young quarterback, and you're in the pistol, which you've shown a bunch, the breakdown of it. Pretty good play by the safety, but they'll have to get to something, and this is why I think they try to come to the sale that gets picked off later. And then let's go back. So let's get to – I'll have to pick that up. I'll have to go find the touchdown. I did not get added in the playlist. So let's get to the 3rd and 18. There wasn't a ton after that touchdown to really watch. So let's get to the 3rd and 18 play. First, you're going to motion. Confirms the coverage a little bit, right? Then he's tight. He's going to go out and then back in. He's going to go out to the post, and you're going to flare the back out. So you're going to get him to widen, so you could have Wilson in here if the backer gets depth underneath that post. He doesn't, so you take a shot to the post here. And really good route, and this is really good job by Lagway, obviously, navigating the pocket here. Right, step up, keep your eyes downfield, and then rip an absolute rocket.
Yeah, insane.
And then here's kind of the all-22 look at it. So as he widens with this, if this guy was to get really deep under there, you'd have Wilson coming into that void there, and he can catch and run. Then over here, you're basically got curl flat. So an absolute rip.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the first play of overtime. No, we got to go all the way back. Double clicked it. Oh, no. All right, I'll get those pulled up. Well, anything that kind of stuck out to you while watching that? As I go back to get these clips that did not get on for some reason.
I mean, Tennessee has a tough offense to defend, especially like UCF. I mean, Nico didn't play great, but it's a tough offense, especially when I think Florida has a lot of weaknesses. I think we have 3 really good players in Jason Marshall, Pup Howard, and Shamar James. And I think we got a lot out of young guys like Gates, Jaden Robinson, the young defensive tackle. We got good pressure. And it's guys really stepping up. We played, people are saying, oh, well, we looked really different from the past 2 weeks. And some of that's just, we played some pretty unique offenses, and so you play them differently. And I thought the game plan there was pretty good. And we had a good game plan against Tennessee last year. It was nice to see another good game plan this year. And it just stinks we didn't win. But that's why we watch college football. It's high variance. You can't predict who's going to win on paper. As much as, many numbers as I'll show you, I'm never going to tell you exactly what's going to happen.
All right, so after the previous jet sweep debacle where this guy runs the play down, you're in a similar look here formationally. Here's the corner. You're going to make it look similar where I'd be releasing out to block. He'd be releasing out as a lead blocker, just like we saw previously for the jet sweep. Right? Difference is we're going to run 4 verts out of it. So here's the 1 vert. Here's the 1 vert. Number 3 is getting across to the opposite hash. You'd like to have a guy 2 yards outside each hash, a guy outside the numbers. He's going to be the wide vert. And then the back is actually going to go up this seam. Now, into the boundary, it gets a little tighter, but it also, the corner's a little bit tighter and easier to run by, I think, for the tight end. So here's the jet look. The corner steps up. You run by him. The back also would have probably gotten open if it was longer, if you had to wait and didn't throw that one. Great throw and catch there on the 4 verts. Look off the jet sweep. So really well designed, especially after seeing how they defended your jet sweep on that 4th down. And really good throw. This is something they did last year against Arkansas as well. And should have scored on that last year. I think there's a drop on the goal line. So, all right, so now let's look at the first play of overtime. So, again, you start in bunch. Like we talked about the previous bunch they had in the boundary. They motioned him, but still you didn't bunch. This corner was rolled a little lower. So they may have anticipated if we go bunch in the boundary again, the corner is going to be lower.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, you're going to be you're running pin and pull basically.
If you're running an actual QB sweep.
And the quarterback would be keeping it. And this is something I believe they've shown with Lagway at times this year is quarterback pin and pull. If he can sell a little bit more, I think he can get the corner to step up a little bit. The corner does a pretty good job, but in this look, here,
if Lagway can sell it,
the corner, I think the idea is to make the corner the force player in the run game. So he's got to step up and play the run here. You'll see Lagway does, like Budge said, Lagway does not sell it great. If you can sell it a little bit better, He's to the corner. Right, Lagway. If you sell quarterback sweep more, like here, he's already starting to pull up. You can see his eyes are here. He's going inside, but he's already starting to kind of pull up. So here he's pulled up almost just about a half second early. The corner makes a great play. He's like, oh, crap. He's pulling up to throw it. Somebody's behind me. If he could just sell that a little bit longer, it's probably a score. And I got a really good example of what you want it to look like.
I mean, some people could be frustrated and say, there's only one route that you're targeting here. What the heck are we doing? Like, you got to give them more options than that. But this is kind of a trick play. This fake QB sweep. Yeah.
So if you sell the sweep,
look how he's holding it.
Yeah, and this is a much tougher look than the one Tennessee gave Florida defensively. Like, you have a safety getting over involved. Florida is really just like if the corner can step up in the run game, you're by him. But you really want to sell that run first. So I think this was the idea here: sell quarterback sweep, and then pull it up and throw it. They just didn't sell the quarterback sweep enough. So, unfortunately,
cool play. I like it with Lagway. That's a play you're not running with Mertz.
I believe they have called. Quarterback sweep in previous games out of the bunch with Lagway. So, I think this is true though going forward. Like, how much will you run Lagway, and how much is that a part of it? I think that'll be less. It's hard to say with Richardson if that was called that way. I think it was a little bit, but there are also times where it's kind of come out after him talking about I was going to the NFL or transferring the next year. So I don't think he was super into it either. So that's part of it as well. So
Lagway's run QBs. I mean,
but we'll see now that there's no backup.
that's the big thing.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see going forward. Any final thoughts on Tennessee before we start talking about Kentucky a little bit?
No, let's do it.
All right, where do you want to start?
Let's go Florida offense, Kentucky defense. I think Florida offense would kind of know.
Do you want to start with you want to do all the Florida defense stuff at the end with how it's changed and all that? Okay, all right, we'll get Florida's offense up first here.
All right. You can kind of zoom in a little bit if you can.
Oh, yes.
You got the zoom. It's down at the bottom. There we go. All right.
There we go.
So our offense is doing okay. I mean, it's not killer. Our success rate numbers, as the SR column, you're going to see a little bit more green there than the EPA per play. So if you look at the all plays, and so people have asked me, what's the difference, Bud? Some of your numbers don't like Florida as much as you'll see S&P Plus will like them a fair bit. FPI is a little lower. What gives, and that's because Florida's efficiency numbers are pretty good. So that's an average play is pretty good. But our explosiveness numbers are not as good, which is, we're not hitting big plays or we're having disastrous negative plays, especially those. Like being bad on third down and turnovers are really bad. But, similar run pass splits to what we've seen in, other Napier teams, heavy motion. I think what stands out to me is the 12. The 12 personnel, especially, we saw it against Tennessee. We're using it a lot. We're using it really effectively in both the run game and the pass game. It's working well for us.
I think there's been a lot of 12 personnel empty the last couple of weeks, which is kind of an interesting look.
Awesome.
So,
teams don't know what to do.
It is tough because you create extra gaps in the run game, but then you also have this field spread wide. So who do you match up? Who do you match up? Like, where do you put your outside backers? Do you put them in the box to defend the run? Do you put them out over the slot receiver? Do you bring the safety out of it? So it creates some some problems for defenses that once they kind of show you what their answer is. Now, unfortunately, I think like when we talked about quarterback run could be a little bit more limited, which would really make that go. But it does create some problems for defenses.
Yeah, and being able to stay in 12 for extended periods of time, then the defense can't sub. They don't have as many guys to match 12 as 11. 11's the standard. It's what most teams have to prepare for. But if you're staying in 12 for a full drive and you can run your whole playbook from empty to your heavier pistol stuff, then we've seen that's when we really cook.
That's the dream, bud.
Yeah, that's the dream. We've done more tempo. I've loved that.
Yeah.
Play action, doing pretty good. The deep targets are still down, hoping that goes up a little bit with Lagway. The tight end numbers look great. Hanson's the dude. There was I think that first spacing, maybe that second spacing, he catches it and normal dude gets hit and maybe goes backyard. He's immediately turning around, getting 3 or 4 more. I love that guy.
He's a large man.
Yeah. And then running back designed runs, okay success rate, but not so great EPA. The QB design runs have done okay. Really, it's just we've been bad at gap blocking. And that kind of makes sense if you watch George pull. He's very slow.
Yeah. not the most fleet of foot guy.
No. Anything else?
I do. The screens have been terrible, and that's something that it's just consistent. That's one thing that I thought after the first year, man, if they could get better at quick game and screens, that would be really help the offense go. Man, the screen game has not been very good, and
Billy's scheme is not that dissimilar to Sark, but Sark's got the RPOs, and his screen game is just crushes.
And that's what a lot of the really great offensive coordinators are really good in the screen. Like Andy Reid, they say is a screen game wizard. That can really help you out, especially if you're not elite up front. Yeah. So that's unfortunate that seeing that the EPA numbers for when you call a screen, is it makes sense. So, and they call them about average though, so they're calling screen kind of on average when the national average, but pretty bad right now. So, all right, you want to look at the Kentucky defense?
Yeah, let's hop over to the Kentucky defense.
All right, let's do that. Kentucky typically, it's kind of a little bit. It seems like a little bit different than normal. They're typically really good at limiting explosives. This year, not quite as much, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think kind of what jumps out is this is not quite as good of a Kentucky defense. This is a good defense, but they're not quite as ridiculous as they've been for the past few years. Worse versus the pass, but a very good run defense. Most of the numbers are very strong on the run side, a little bit weaker on the pass. And I think kind of what jumps out to me is the tight end targets, right?
Yeah, 75% success rate.
The deep targets.
7.75 EPA per play. The deep target really jumped out to me.
Playing a lot of.
They've been really good at in the past. You go back and watch kind of I think the game that kind of started the end of the Mullen era, that game at Kentucky where they jumped off sides or Florida started a ton. It seemed like it was all unraveling in 21. They just do not. They typically make you methodically drive down the field.
Yeah,
and they don't beat themselves. And you see the deep target numbers. People are getting over the top of them. It seems like
heavy zone team. Right this year they're playing a lot of middle of the field close. We were kind of talking about that. That's they're usually more of a quarters team, right?
I feel like I've seen them play a ton of quarters in the past, but could be their changeup. I'm not can't say for certain. So, but all the zone middle of the field close could be we were talking. Could be 3. Could be Rip Liz stuff like the Saban Rip Liz stuff where it looks kind of like 3, but it's man match and different kind of stuff. So, but they're usually really good at it.
Yeah. And that's when they've been better, right? They're getting a little bit more hurt on the man. You can see the man numbers are atrocious. They've been just getting scorched. So expect to see a lot of zone. They don't blitz a ton, pretty low blitz rate. When they do blitz, it's not that good. They're more of a sit back, like you said, make you drive the field. And then their run defense is excellent.
Yeah. So there is some interest. I think there is some things that kind of coincide here a little bit. Like middle of the field close numbers, you can see the numbers aren't great, even though that's like their main deal. But I think you can probably look at, okay, a lot of those, I'd imagine the real issues are when they go middle of the field close to play cover one and blitz, right? So you're playing man, you're blitzing. You can kind of see
tight end
okay, it looks like you're getting crushed when you blitz and are in man. And that may be throwing off kind of the total of the middle of the field close numbers just because they're really bad in those situations.
I could see that. Pretty much runs, no real obvious glaring weaknesses. They've been good against the QB run. So I would not expect Florida to really push that. The gap runs are probably where they've been weakest. We've been bad at it. So might be a tough day on the ground for the Gators, but and we'll need DJ Lagway to have a pretty good game throwing it.
Yeah, JP is in the chat. You thinking it's match? So they could be playing like Rip Liz match stuff, and that's what Saban and those guys played a ton of. So like it's good stuff, and
they've got an injury in the pass defense, right?
Yeah, I believe their best corner is hurt. I'm not sure if they might have put down the injury report while we've been on. So if anybody's seen that for sure that he's out, you could let us know in the chat. But I believe Hairston, his name. Maxwell Hairston out.
Okay. So
and then they have a few defensive linemen out, but I'm not sure how much those guys play. So
all right, well, let's go, DJ. Get it done. All right, you want to go to let's go Kentucky offense, then we can end on Florida defense because that kind of can transition into
All right, let's go. Kentucky offense. I don't think they haven't been lighting the world on fire, right? But
no.
Brock Vandegrift, 5-star transfer from Georgia. It's not
big dude has not been throwing the ball well. So you see the designed runs. Yeah, that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to run the ball. They're not as good passing the ball. Pretty bad sack scrambled numbers. QB's been getting hit. Wow. They're going to be heavier. They're going to be in 12. You're going to see a lot of motion, a lot of play action. That's not too dissimilar from us. Probably the QB runs and the gap blocking stand out as big things that we've got to have on our checklist for being able to defend. They want to run the ball. They're going to run the QB. They're going to have pin and pull stuff. So
and it seems like they're going to hopefully get you in a heavy box and take some shots.
Yeah.
Right. Is that kind of because the running back target numbers are pretty good. And then the deep target numbers in terms of EPA per play are really good.
Oh yeah. So they'll take some shots. Yeah.
Kind of bad. I mean, there's a lot of bad in that passing offense.
Yeah. They haven't been great against the blitz. They're seeing a lot of zone. They've been bad against zone. They've been bad against man. They've been bad against middle of the field close. They've been bad against middle of the field open. They just have not passed that well. So I think this is third straight week. Florida's going to need their run defense to play pretty well. And, kind of the third straight week we played a gap run team or a heavy gap run team.
Yeah.
Probably one of the better QB runners. So get ready.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I knew they were struggling throwing the ball, but golly, it seems like it's really like shot or nothing.
Yeah. And he was such a highly rated guy. But, there's not many guys who transfer out of that Georgia program. So it's always kind of a red flag when they do.
Yeah. They seem to have their money together. So like if they don't find the money for somebody, probably not worth keeping, I suppose. All right, so where do you want to go on the Florida defense? You put out.
Let's go the big picture one, and then we can look week by week. How about that?
So here's kind of the big picture 2024 here.
This is where we're at to date. Which we're an okay defense, probably slightly below average. Again, good efficiency numbers, right? A little worse EPA per play. Pass defense has been pretty good efficiency wise, a little bad explosive wise. Sacks and scrambles, we are really struggling to generate those, and teams have been able to run pretty efficiently on us. All that's tending to come down, which is good. The RB target or the deep targets, we're cleaning those up. I think those have basically been halved over the past few games, which is great. So, yeah, anything stand out to you?
I mean, it definitely seems like these numbers are trending in a good direction after the last couple of weeks. I think some of this could be a function of we've played a couple pretty good offensives, but it'll be interesting to see. I know you've got kind of it broken out a little bit after kind of pre bye week and after bye week. Some of the numbers, some of the changes. So I think that stuff's really interesting.
The blitz is an interesting one. Our blitz rate is really low this year. And we've been awful when we've blitzed. So there might be a reason for that.
The middle of the field close stuff still sticks out because of how much. Now that's starting to come down, but man, it was they were majoring in that. It seemed like the first 4 or 5 weeks, and it was so terrible. It didn't really make any sense. So that it's good to see that kind of get back within where it's a little bit better. It's still not very good, but it's getting better. So that's helpful.
Can you all right? Can you throw up the weeks 1 and 5 and 6 and 7? Can you put them next to each other?
That may be tough.
If not, I can share it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you want me to throw up the polls first?
No. Oh yeah, let's do the polls first.
Okay, so Bud, if you follow Bud on Twitter, earlier today he put up some polls to kind of think, all right, what do you think has changed in the last couple of weeks? Because Bud pulled the data from the first few weeks, last couple of weeks. What's changed? What's in a few different spots. So here's the first set of questions. In the past 2 weeks, Florida's passing defense implemented an increased usage of what basic type of coverage? Man or zone? Almost 65% of people that responded said increase in man coverage.
Yeah.
Similarly, hey, if you increase the blitz rate, almost 60% or more than 60% of people said increase in blitzing.
Yeah, those two would go hand in hand, right? If you're blitzing a lot, you're going to do a lot more man coverage. And really, I was kind of motivated by this work. There's a rumor that was like, oh, well, Austin Armstrong's calling plays now. And because, Florida's defenses look so much different. And I was kind of some of that, yes, Florida's defense has looked different. Can you tell me how? And I felt like people had pretty different opinions on what was actually different. So I did the polls, and then we've got the numbers to compare with that. So I think this is helpful to see what are maybe vibes versus what are data.
Yeah.
And what's actually going on.
Then we talked about it. Florida was pretty heavy middle of the field closed, but style of Florida safety plays changed dramatically the past 2 weeks. What type of coverage have we seen increased usage? Middle of the field open, so that's your cover twos, your quarters, or middle of the field closed, cover one, cover three. Over 55% of people said more middle of the field closed than before.
Yeah, this is almost a 50-50 split here, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And that would somewhat, I think that would also, there would be some people to say, okay, if we're blitzing more, we're blitzing more, we're playing more man coverage, we're playing more cover one. That's middle of the field close.
Yeah.
Is what I think some people thought or think. Average number of defenders in the box has also shifted substantially. Are we seeing an increased usage of light boxes or heavy boxes by Florida? So Florida's been pretty good stopping the run the last 2 weeks. And
I could see people, I think
almost 80% of the people think that's because they're putting more guys in the box to stop the run.
Yeah, and that's an interesting one. This one I thought was probably the hardest question because, yes, we played better run defense, but we've also played two offenses that basically ask you to go to a light box, right? With how they spread you out with the veer and shoot. So, which is it? But I just thought this was pretty interesting. So we can kind of, I'll share. Let me see. Let's see if I can nail this. Are we sharing? How's that look?
There we go. I'll get us out of there.
All right.
Looks good.
All right. So on the left is we have weeks 1 through 5. So that's 4 games. And on the right, we have post-bye. So that's weeks 6 and 7. So that's UCF and Tennessee over here. You got your Miami and your Texas A&M games over here. Plus some Samford and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
So I think people have kind of said post-bye there's been a lot of changes. And in general, I would agree with that. There have been changes, but I think a lot of it really is less major changes in scheme and instead responding to the types of offenses we're playing with. So first off, I think you see sacks and scrambles, both are at 5%, but the dramatic thing is this -1 EPA here. We're getting many more sacks and much fewer scrambles.
Yeah.
Which is excellent. Actually the past numbers on pass attempts are slightly worse the past 2 weeks. And I'd say it's kind of a wash on the designed runs. Our success rate is worse the past 2 weeks, but our EPA per play is better. And we've played 2 good rushing teams. So I kind of call that a wash. But the big difference in performance the past 2 weeks is we're getting sacks instead of letting the QB scramble. And so if you're getting sacks, I think the thing you automatically jump to is, are we blitzing? And if you look at blitzing, we are blitzing more. We're still blitzing at a really low rate, compared to FBS average, but, we're up 5%. So if you answered increased rate of blitzing, you are correct. And we've done pretty well on the blitzing. I mean, negative EPA 0.24, that's good. Our blitzes are doing well. So yay. And then I think this is where, the sacks and scrambles are the big difference. So people automatically assume we're blitzing more. So they think more man, more middle of the field close, more heavy boxes.
No.
And you can kind of go, and instead you're seeing we've played a ton of 2 deep safeties. That was you can go back and watch the Tennessee tape. You're going to see a lot of 2 high. And you're going to see, these deep targets that were, we were almost giving up a full point every time they attempted it. Now we're getting points back. Huge change in our safety play. We're not playing nearly as much cover 3 as we were against Miami. Now we're playing more 2 high stuff, and it's working significantly better. So that's been great. Zone rates, those are up as well. So if you answered middle of the field open and zone, you were correct there. You can see a little bit of a curveball as the man stuff has been really good for us. This might be some of our blitz. But generally, even these numbers, the zone numbers here are pretty good, especially compared to what they were. And so then going light versus heavy box, we've actually been playing lighter lately. But some of this is a function of just who you play. And like I said, the veer and shoot stuff, it wants to spread you out wide. It wants you to go into a light box to make their gap run games easier. I mean, you see our gap run that we faced, it's off the charts almost. So I think this is important to keep in mind. It's not always, it's not always some grand change in scheme or play caller, right? But, they've pretty much confirmed Austin Armstrong is not calling plays. He's on the sideline. He got moved from the box to the sideline, and he's without a play sheet. If anything, he's gotten further from calling plays.
Well, I think the signal to whether he's calling plays the last 2 weeks or not is he is a big middle of the field closed defensive guy. So it seems to me more likely than him calling plays is that they were trying to integrate what he liked to do earlier in the year, and that now Ron Roberts has gone to more of what he's more comfortable with, which is more too high stuff. So, and that's like, to me, that's the biggest signal that it's not Austin Armstrong, because he's a really heavy. Last year, he's a really heavy middle of the field close guy. So
we have the 2023 numbers for Auburn and Florida, and you can look the past 2 weeks. They look like, if anything, they look like Auburn, and they don't look like.
Yeah. So here's Florida from last year. Yeah. So you see 50% middle of the field closed.
Not much middle of the field.
30% blitz.
30% above average blitz
man. 45% zone. So those are kind of, I think, I don't think anybody's shocked that Austin Armstrong was pretty aggressive at times last year, right? Yeah. Blitz more than average, played man more than average, played middle of the field close more than average.
Yeah.
On the other end of it, you have Ron Roberts last year at Auburn. You see he is in
way more
open a lot more than average.
More
man
zone.
Less than average, blitz less than average. So
these
look a lot more like you said the last couple of weeks. Looks a little bit more like this than it does the 2023 Florida defense.
Yeah, and the data I think tells a story. I think can you shrink it down? We can just talk. The data tells a story, but I mean the important thing is just the evidence that guys like your beat reporters are telling you, that Napier's telling you, Austin Armstrong's not calling plays. And that's fine. I think Ron Roberts our defense is showing improvement. That's great, especially with the young guys. I think it's going to be another tough week, but I am cautiously optimistic. Florida's defense has shown we can handle the gap stuff. We can handle some of these really good running teams. And I think they should keep us in the game. And it's going to come down to maybe Lagway throwing the ball.
Yeah, and that's somewhat now. This year's numbers aren't as good as they've been in the past, but that's always kind of you saw how in Richardson's first year, Stoops was able to kind of trick him into throwing some really bad interceptions and things like that. We've seen Lagway at times. I would say he locks on, but he's confident in making all the throws. So sometimes that can come back to bite you a little bit. So he can try to fit him in there. So, I think if you can avoid the turnovers, if you're Lagway, I think you can be in a pretty good spot. They're just my worry is that Stoops is pretty good at kind of tricking young quarterbacks into throwing them a couple every game. So
he's a good DC.
Yes, he's very good. Like I think he would be now. It seems like this year is really going poorly for him. And I saw like both these coaches, their last 13 games are 5-8, I believe. So that's not great for either. It's a little bit more acceptable at Kentucky than it is at Florida. But Stoops seems like the guy if you matched him with the right kind of offensive coordinator. Now, he seems to have a style that he likes, and it's not somebody that you'd be like, hey, you have to have this guy. If you match him with the right type of offensive coordinator, I think he could probably do well at a bigger job because they do a pretty good job identifying guys. They're the first offer for a lot of really good players, and they've been able to win some of those battles too. But, it just seems like this year, I thought he had the Texas A&M job in the bag. Just hasn't quite been hitting on all cylinders yet. But he's had Billy Napier's number the last 2 years, so it'll be interesting to see if Billy can get off the schneid there.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's about it. I'm
cautiously optimistic for Florida.
Yeah, I think. What do you think the point total needed is here for the Gators to come away with a win? Where do you feel comfortable? I don't think this Kentucky offense is great. So you think if you're in the 20s, 24 plus, where do you think they got to get to?
It depends on the turnovers, man. I think both teams are going to turn it over. So how bad are they? Yeah, I think I think 20s. You're right. I think low 20s gets you there. I could see What is the over/under? I haven't even checked
Right
that.
now, Kentucky has gone from being a underdog to 1.5 point favorite. The total is 43. Over 43, under or 42.5 at a bunch of places too. So
that's pretty low.
That's a low 20s game.
Yeah. So, all right, 24-17.
Yeah, there you go. If you can score 3 touchdowns, I think you feel like you got a good chance to win the game. So, can you manufacture 3 touchdowns? I think Florida's got the skill guys to do it. Kentucky's really good up front, so I think it will be, like you said, it might come down to can Lagway throw the ball and stay clean, right?
Yeah.
If you can do those, if Lagway has a good game throwing the ball, Florida probably wins. Is that fair? So
I like that it's at home.
That's helpful too. Yes. So Florida, the crowd has been great so far this season. I'm sure we'll get another good one. I think they're honoring the 1984 team. So that'll be cool. I had 3 coaches at Trinity Catholic that played on the 1984 team. Hopefully, I don't know if Kerwin will be in attendance, but
that's the vacated SEC championship.
Yeah, and national championship in some publications. So like you could claim it if Florida wanted to, but they don't do that. So, but 84 team, honor them. Bunch of great dudes on the team and some really, really good football players. So
we're not going to be there. We're taking this one off.
No.
So we'll do our show.
Yeah.
And looking forward to it.
All right.
Let us know in the comments what y'all think. We really appreciate it. Things you want to see more of.
Yeah,
we appreciate
Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll go live every week, typically during every game as well. So follow us, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll be back hopefully during halftime with the game here. And then if not, next week to review the action. So, Bud, thank you.
Odds are I'll be more sober for those shows.
We'll see how the first half goes.
Yeah, honestly, you're maybe right. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Take care, guys.
All right. See you. Go Gators.
Go Gators.